shadows of history.
In 1985, something shifted in the global economy. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but within a few years, its impact would reshape entire regions. Following a coordinated agreement among major economies, the value of the Japanese yen began to rise rapidly. For Japan's export-driven industries, this created a serious problem. Production costs increased, profit margins tightened, and suddenly, the model that had driven decades of growth was under pressure. What followed was not a collapse, but a relocation. Factories began to move, investments flowed outward, and Southeast Asia, almost quietly, became one of the primary destinations. Officially, this shift was driven by market forces and policy decisions, but economic transformations of this scale rarely happen without deeper coordination, because moving industries is not just a business decision, it's a strategic one, and strategic decisions are rarely made in public. The official explanation is straightforward. Currency realignment made Japanese exports less competitive, encouraging companies to invest abroad. At the same time, Southeast Asian nations were actively positioning themselves as attractive destinations for foreign investment. Lower labor costs, improving infrastructure, and regional cooperation through ASEAN created the conditions for rapid industrial growth. Data from global institutions supports this narrative. Foreign direct investment increased significantly, manufacturing output expanded, and export volumes surged. From a policy perspective, everything appears logical: cause and effect, action and reaction. But there is a gap between what is documented and what is coordinated, because large-scale economic shifts often involve more than public agreements. They involve alignment between governments, corporations, and financial institutions, and that alignment doesn't always happen on record. Between official agreements and real-world outcomes, there is often a layer that remains invisible: informal discussions, private negotiations, and strategic alignments that are never fully documented. In the late 1980s, as Japan's economic position shifted, corporations faced critical decisions about where to relocate production. Governments in Southeast Asia, meanwhile, were competing to attract that investment. Incentives were offered, policies were adjusted, but beyond these public measures, it is reasonable to consider that additional conversations took place, not in press conferences, but in boardrooms, not in official transcripts, but in internal communications. This is not unusual. In global economics, informal coordination is often just as important as formal agreements. The question is not whether such conversations happened, they almost certainly did. The question is how much influence they had, and whether a small number of decisions made behind closed doors accelerated a transformation that would reshape an entire region. By the late 1980s, the shift was no longer theoretical, it was measurable. Japanese capital began flowing outward at an unprecedented scale, with Southeast Asia emerging as a primary destination. This wasn't random expansion, it followed a pattern. Countries offering favorable policies, stable governance, and competitive labor costs received the largest inflows. Data from institutions like the World Bank shows a clear surge in foreign direct investment across the region during this period. Factories were built, supply chains were restructured, and entire industrial zones appeared within a few years. For local economies, this meant rapid growth. Jobs increased, exports expanded, infrastructure improved. But capital flows are never neutral. They move with purpose, and they create influence. Because when investment enters at that scale, it doesn't just build industries, it shapes economic direction. And once that direction is set, reversing it becomes increasingly difficult. The transformation brought undeniable benefits. Manufacturing growth created millions of jobs across Southeast Asia. Cities expanded. A new middle class began to emerge. For many, this period represented opportunity, access to income, stability, and a connection to the global economy. But growth of this scale rarely comes without trade-offs. As foreign investment increased, so did economic dependency. Local industries became integrated into global supply chains, often controlled by external corporations. Decisions affecting production, pricing, and employment were no longer entirely local. They were influenced by global market dynamics. In some sectors, wages remained low despite increasing output. Labor conditions became a point of concern. And while the region benefited from growth, it also became more exposed to external shocks. This is the dual nature of rapid development. It creates progress, but it also creates vulnerability. And once an economy becomes deeply connected to global systems, it becomes part of something much larger and far less predictable.
At the center of this transformation was not a single decision, but a network. Governments, corporations, and financial institutions all played a role in shaping the direction of economic growth. While policies were announced publicly, much of the alignment required to execute them happened through relationships, formal and informal. Executives negotiated investment terms, officials adjusted regulations, financial institutions facilitated capital movement. None of this is inherently secretive. It is how global economics functions. But it does highlight something important. Influence is rarely distributed evenly. Those with access to decision-making spaces, boardrooms, summits, private discussions, hold a disproportionate ability to shape outcomes. This doesn't mean there was a single hidden agreement controlling everything, but it does suggest that a relatively small group of actors had significant influence over how and where capital moved. And when influence is concentrated, the effects of those decisions can extend far beyond the room in which they were made. In 1997, the system was tested. The Asian financial crisis exposed the vulnerabilities that had been building beneath the surface. Currencies collapsed, capital fled, markets destabilized almost overnight. For economies that had grown rapidly through foreign investment, the shock was immediate and severe. Projects were halted, businesses closed, unemployment rose. The same interconnectedness that had driven growth now amplified the crisis. Decisions made in global financial centers had direct consequences on local economies. Institutions like the International Monetary Fund stepped in with recovery programs, but those came with conditions, policy changes, structural adjustments, and long-term implications. The crisis did not erase the gains of the previous decade, but it revealed something critical. The system was not as stable as it appeared, and when pressure was applied, the balance between opportunity and dependency became impossible to ignore. So the question remains, was this transformation planned? The evidence suggests a more complex answer. There is no single document, no definitive record that points to a coordinated master plan. The available data supports a combination of policy decisions, market responses, and strategic investments. But at the same time, large-scale economic shifts rarely occur without some level of coordination. Not necessarily in the form of a single meeting that determines everything, but through a series of aligned decisions made by different actors over time. This is where interpretation becomes important. One perspective sees a natural evolution of global markets. Another sees a pattern of influence shaped by those with the power to direct capital and policy. The truth may exist somewhere between these views, not a conspiracy, but not entirely random either, because in systems as complex as global economics, outcomes are often the result of both structure and influence working together. What emerges from this story is not a single hidden event, but a system where policies, markets, and influence intersect to shape outcomes that affect millions of people. Southeast Asia's economic rise was real, and it was built on tangible factors: investment, labor, infrastructure, and global demand. But behind those factors lies a deeper structure, one that is not always visible. A structure where decisions made in one part of the world can reshape realities in another, where access to capital determines opportunity, and where influence, even when informal, can guide the direction of entire economies. Understanding this system does not require believing in hidden conspiracies. It requires recognizing that not all forces are equally visible. Some operate in data, others operate in relationships, and together they create outcomes that can feel both inevitable and surprisingly coordinated. Economic history is often told through data, policies, and timelines, but behind those elements are decisions, some public, others less visible. The transformation of Southeast Asia was real, measurable, and significant. It created growth, opportunity, and global integration, but it also introduced new dependencies, new power structures, and new questions. Was there a single meeting that changed everything? Probably not. But were there moments, conversations, alignments, decisions that accelerated the shift in ways we cannot fully trace? That is far more likely. Because power rarely operates in isolation. It operates through networks, through influence, and through timing. And sometimes, the most important decisions are the ones that leave the smallest footprint. If you want to explore the forces shaping history behind the scenes, subscribe to Shadows of History, where we don't just follow the story, we question what's missing.